kind of life we lead now is we just wake up and we're like, oh, H3 posted a video about us, posted another video about us. Oh, Chud Logic posted another video about us. Copen Sieve posted another.
If you can't handle that, the response is to log off. Just be done with the internet until people move on to the next person they want to talk to, and then you can try to come back later. This schizoing out and going full fucking lolcow. This is not good. This is not good. This is how you become Boogie2988, and then you're topless on a Keemstar podcast with a knife screaming about ending yourself. Jesus.
Jake Weddle. Hello, my name is Tom, and today we're going to be talking about a guy named Jake. Not Jake Doolittle. It's Jake Weddle, and this guy is a comedian.
Is he? Is he? Oh my god.
But if you've ever heard about Jake Weddle, you
Jesus.
probably don't know him from his
This
status
fucking
as
guy.
a comedian. Instead, you probably know him because of Mr. Beast. He was featured in a video by Dogpack404 where he gave testimony on how Mr. Beast had apparently subjected him to a Russian sleep
Yeah, he's
experiment
a goofy
style
dude.
torture experiment thing video, and it did not.
So the funny part is, he's supposed to be doing this. He's supposed to be doing this fucking solitary confinement challenge, and I think he lasted like 11 days, and he gave him mental trauma and drove him wild, like drove him insane. He couldn't take it. Meanwhile, his actual dad is in prison as a sex offender and doing solitary confinement for free, for no money. And you should have been able to handle it, Jake. So I'm saying it runs in the family. Like, your dad is doing solitary confinement professionally for free as a punishment for, you know, his sex offending. And here you couldn't last 2 weeks for a large sum of money. Pussy. Your dad will probably disown you when he finds out.
Not go that well for him. Now, at the time, a lot of people felt a lot of sympathy for Mr. Weddle and his
I did not.
experience. But
I was not one of those people.
As the Mr. Beast controversy has died down and Jake Weddle has fallen into obscurity, there's been kind of a souring in the positive public image of Jake Weddle. A lot of people hate this guy, and today I want to find out why. It's kind of a cautionary
It's
tale
not hard.
in how to handle online attention.
He's got a
and
very
criticism
punchable face.
and hatred and being made fun of, and I think that we're going to learn a lot. Now, Jake Weddle, as I said, is a self-described comedian hailing from North Carolina with ties to Mr. Beast's YouTube projects. His website credits him as Mr. Beast's head writer, and he appeared in a few videos as well. But as I said, his reputation doesn't really rest on his comedic chops. Instead, it rests on the fact that he was in part 2 of Dogpack's expose series on Mr. Beast. Dogpack404, of course, being a very disgruntled employee who had a lot of problems with Mr. Beast and wanted to expose him. Now, I've discussed this video before. A lot of you have probably heard about it either from Dogpack's original video or from all of the commentary channels who talked about it at the time. But in this video, Jake gave testimony as a former employee who had a less than positive experience working there. At one point, Jake even claims that he was set up to become the sort of fourth banana. He thought he was going to become one of the stars of the Mr. Beast YouTube channel, but instead he had a less than positive experience working there.
Oh, can you cry more? Oh, it's so good for the camera if you could. Oh, it made me uncomfortable that I was working there, and I didn't like it, and I vocalized it.
Both of these guys
and I think that's
scream
why I
clout
wasn't on
chaser.
camera as much as they said I was going to be. I was told at one
They
point
didn't
that
put
I was
me
gonna
on
be the
camera
fourth
as much.
banana. You know, it was going to be Jimmy, Chris, Chandler, me, you know?
You see, at some point, Jake Weddle became
Never
dissatisfied
gonna
with
happen.
what he was being paid, and as a result, he demanded a higher salary, threatening to quit if he didn't get that. But unfortunately, he kind of overplayed his hand here, and because he wasn't as critical of a figure at the company as he may have thought he was, according to him, they opted to just fire him instead. Now, there are a few schools of thought on this. Some people think that it was cruel for him to be fired, and instead he should have just been given a raise.
Nope.
I mean, Mr. Beast has so much money, right? But others think that this is not
Nope.
some kind of shocking development. They would
He should have
contend
been
that this is
fired.
just kind of how things go when someone with very little leverage tries to negotiate
Toxic
their pay
employee
or
like
threatens
that.
to quit. And it's
You
important
don't
to
neg-
acknowledge
we don't
that Jake was
negotiate
not
with
just
terrorists.
acting alone. He had another employee in on this entire thing with him where they were going to demand better pay, and ultimately they were both fired. So some people think this might have been interpreted as some attempt to unionize, although the idea that
Nope.
Mr. Beast fired 2 people
were just
because
two
he was afraid of
disgruntled
a union
employees.
being formed is kind of, it's a little silly.
No.
I
Yeah,
admit.
that doesn't
I will
make
say
sense.
whatever side you fall on here, it definitely was not a winning strategy.
What's my
to
definition of
take
gooning?
yourself and one other employee.
What do you mean, what's my definition of gooning? Are you not a gooner? Do you not know how gooning works? You know? You should just Google gooning. Not Goonies. Just gooning.
and say, we're going to quit unless you pay us more, didn't really have the leverage. But regardless of them being fired, they still both received severance packages as a little parting gift. And you would think this would be the end of his time at Mr.
That's
Beast.
way
but it
more
actually
generous
was
than any of
not,
my
because a
jobs
little
have ever
while
been
later,
toward
he was
me.
apparently contacted by Mr. Beast's team and asked to take part in a challenge for a video. A video that would ultimately become a solitary confinement challenge where he was in one room and he couldn't leave, and that was the video. But according to Jake, the details of this challenge were kind of misrepresented to him before he got there.
The pitch is 100 days in solitary confinement. But don't worry, like you only have to last like 30. We have like a video. They're pitching it like at first it's gonna be like a luxury vacation. You're gonna have like a hot tub and an ice cream machine, and like part of the video is gonna be you deciding like what items am I gonna get rid of, today, and it's like the choice.
Now, the proposition for this challenge was that Jake would be paid $10,000 every single day that he completed it. Meaning, if he did it for 5
Jesus.
days, he'd get 50 grand. If he did it for 10 days, he'd get 100. If he did it for 30, he would get $300,000.
I would stay there
which is
until
definitely a good
I was a
payday, no matter
millionaire.
how you look at it. So
Jesus.
it's obvious to me why.
How
Jake
did you
wanted
only
to
last
take it on.
11 days,
And,
dude?
by the end of it, after 30 days, you're gonna get $300,000.
Oh, 30 was the max?
Because
Damn,
it's
that sucks.
$10,000 a day. And I don't know, man. I grew up poor in North Carolina. I said, excuse me? I'll dance for you if you put that kind of money in my face, sure. They were like, you're going to be locked in this room, and we got to make sure you're on all the time. We're going to have cameras on you all the time, and you're perfect for this because you never shut the fuck up.
So Jake takes on the challenge, but it didn't end up going as well as he thought it would. And there's a lot of grievances he lists, the kind of obvious ones being that the psychological toll of being stuck in a room like this is something that is, potentially very bad for you. And a lot of people took that very seriously. And even I sympathize with him for that. Regardless of the pay, it still
Nope,
sucks to
I
be stuck in
do
one
not
room with
sympathize.
the lights turned on at all times.
Are you
It's hard
kidding
to
me?
sleep. You're not going to have a great time there, right? Obviously, regardless if you
I
got
would
paid or
very
not, you can still
happily do
express
that
some sympathy
challenge.
for that. But his other grievances with it range from there being like an unpleasant odor in the room, the hot tub not
Don't
being
care.
warm enough, and then
Don't
the
care.
ice cream machine being
why you
too
got a
loud.
fucking
There's kind of a
hot tub.
gradient of complaints here.
I don't
where, like, Some
care.
of them matter more, and some of them are like, whatever. But he is talking about his experience, so he has a right to say what he wants.
And at first it's fine. And, they had just freshly painted the set. You could smell it, Which that's probably not good, the smell of fresh paint in your surroundings for the next XYZ time. It looked good on the visual. Like it looks good on
How
the
did
camera.
he not
it's
handle
movie
this?
magic
Oh
bullshit.
my God.
It was a terrible facility. I mean, he was in one of the
Mr. Beast, if you stumble across this YouTube video or if you're watching my live stream right now, give me the challenge. I'm ready. Put me in, coach. I'll stay there 30 days, 50 days, 100 days. I'll stay there all the days. You give me $10,000 a day, I'm not leaving until I'm a millionaire. And you don't have to give me a hot tub or a pool table or any of that bullshit. You can put me in a padded room and just turn the cameras off for like an hour a day. I mean, I'm a man. I do have needs, but some way to entertain myself. I'm gonna jerk off, is what I'm saying. But as long as I can do that, you don't have to give me any other form of entertainment. Just put me in there. I'll stay in there for 365 days. I'll do a whole fucking year. Let's go. I want to be a millionaire.
the studios. They had to get a separate tank
Fuck
for
this pussy.
septic stuff. Yeah, there was a hot tub in it. Yeah, there was an ice cream machine. Things were cool and funny on paper, but when you think about stuff,
Sounds pretty great to me.
a hot tub that's not connected to a filtration system. Give it 3 days, it's gonna stink.
Who cares?
There's not a hot water mechanism, so the hot tub was a lukewarm tub at best, which was a silly complaint. But the shower was always cold, and you take a quick shower.
Don't care.
And
None of
cameras
this sounds like a way
24/7
to.
on me. And the ice cream machine. Let's talk about that for a second. The ice cream machine has
You
two
got an
buttons.
ice cream machine.
On, and off, reeking of
Whoa.
smelly dairy mildew. So I got to choose which sense was assaulted at a time.
But one of his standout complaints was about the lights being left on and not having access to a clock, so he didn't know what time
Don't
it
care,
was, which
don't care,
definitely
don't
sucks.
care.
But interesting,
I mean, it
he
sucks,
even
but
went
don't
so
care.
far as to accuse Mr. Beast of
None of that
committing
would stop
a
me from
war
getting
crime against him.
$10,000
Now,
a day.
Dogpack 404, Mr. Beast's greatest op, his greatest enemy, he was clearly very amused at this prospect, and as a result, he ended up
Where'd
flashing
Mother
a
Gun go?
text box pointing out that sleep deprivation is classified as a war crime.
And I go up to my friend, my good friend.
Oh, fuck this guy so
And
much.
I go, they're not turning the lights off. He goes, what? That's a war crime.
No, it's not.
We're not allowed to do that to terrorists. Oh, good. 24 hours breaking the Geneva Convention, I guess, is what we're doing.
Now, if you want
He
my
thinks
opinion,
he's
I do
funnier
think
than
this
he is.
challenge for Mr. Beast overall was
In case you're
a bad
wondering what
idea,
that
and I
what
do
that
have sympathy
was,
for
he was
Jake
trying to
because
tell a
regardless
joke.
of if he got paid,
Remember,
this still
he
sucks.
fancies
But at the
himself a
same time,
comedian.
leaving the lights on hardly qualifies as a war crime.
It
And
does not.
typically, war criminals also are not going to offer you $10,000 a day to stay in a room. You're not going to be able to leave at any point.
I'll stay in
time.
a
So
room
the
with lights
comparison
on.
is,
I don't care.
It's a dumb comparison. But maybe
Yeah,
you could
this-
say
this
he was
is-
just
this is-
phrasing this in a
Jesus.
comedic manner rather than a
Yeah,
serious
he
one.
was
This is
trying
not
to
a
be
serious
funny.
accusation. But I would argue that using this in a big exposed video that was going to be seen by millions of
Yeah,
people
time and
is a
place,
little bit
dumbass.
disingenuous, because obviously we know how people are going to take it, especially at the height of the Mr. Beast controversy. And also, I just don't think that Jake was using it in a comedic manner. He was definitely serious. But regardless, Jake talked a lot about the psychological effects from this, and it was something a lot of people sympathized with. In fact, he claimed that this challenge actually contributed to his insomnia. And at the time, a lot of people
Ugh.
didn't buy that. But since then, many
Pussy.
have come to the conclusion that Jake might have been being a little bit dishonest here. And the reason why is because he was posting about sleep issues as far back as 2020, while the challenge took
Womp
place in
womp.
2021. Now, maybe the issues he was describing earlier on
Do people
were more
forget
common
that they
sleep
post
issues,
things? Like,
and
is that
the
what
actual
happened?
Insomnia, if that's what it is, was caused by the challenge. That could be the case. Maybe before he wasn't really talking in a clinical sense. He was just like, I have trouble sleeping. I have a bad sleep schedule. And after he's talking about how
You're giving him
psychologically this
way
affected
too much
him,
benefit
that,
of the
you know,
doubt, Tom.
Could be the case. But this is
Way
one of the
too
first
much.
things people pointed out is like, how honest is Jake
Hey,
being
baby.
here? Is he exaggerating these claims? Did this really give him insomnia, or is he playing this up? Now, at
He's
one
playing
point in
it
the
up.
Dogpack video,
He's
Jake
definitely
recalls
playing
how
it up.
apparently Jimmy had entered the room when he was doing the challenge with a bunch of cash, and he proposed to him that he do a treadmill challenge. Jake's
Ooh.
claim is that he basically had no
Yeah,
real
and if
choice
you're
in
gonna
this
keep
matter.
giving
He
me
could not
shit to
decline.
do
And a
to
lot of
keep
people
from
took
getting
issue with
bored
this
in my
idea that he
solitary
could never
confinement to
decline
up the ante
because
and get more
obviously
money?
It is a voluntary choice whether he does the
Seriously, Mr. Beast. Bring me on. I will be entertaining. I will do your challenge. I'll stay in that room as long as you want me to, especially if you're going to keep noticing that I'm bored because you put me in a room with no entertainment. Seriously, you don't have to give me the pool table or the hot tub or any of the extra bullshit. You can just put me in a room. I'm fine. I will stay in there as long as needed to become a millionaire. And if you want to, keep me entertained with random challenges that I could do to make even more money, bring it on. Or what? You want me to you want me to do push-ups? You want me to do whatever the thing is you just said that he was gonna do? Yeah, whatever. I'll do it. I'll do it all. I'll suck your dick, Mr. Beast. Just give me $1 million. I want $1 million.
treadmill or not. He could just stay in the room and not do the treadmill. And the entire challenge, of course, was technically voluntary. He could have opted out at any point in time and still kept the money for the days he had already completed. But he goes on to describe running on the treadmill for hours, getting blisters on his
treadmill.
feet, and
I'll do
eventually
it.
telling
Oh
the
my
team
God.
that he was done with it. That was like the breaking point for him. He was done with this challenge overall.
Oh my
And
God! So
I
the optional
wanted to be a
part
good
was the
sport,
part that
and I
broke you.
wanted to
The part you could have said no
boost
to.
and I wanted the cash.
Fuck
and
this
so
guy.
I started running at 12. I was able to take some breaks, and I asked him, how long do I have? He goes, until I get back. And I'm running until 3 a.m. When I got off the treadmill, the blisters I had on my feet were like, you wouldn't believe, just all over, just these big red. I couldn't walk. My muscles were like just the lactic acid.
Are you
I
gonna
got off
cry?
the treadmill, and then the people that came in to like ice my feet, make sure I was good.
Oh fuck! He's gonna cry.
Then that's when I was like, I'm done. I can't. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out.
Now, Jake was eventually paid out for this
Listen.
challenge. He was given $110,000.
And still got paid.
But he seemingly felt like this was not enough money for what he went through.
Oh
and on
my
top of that, he also
God.
complained about the fact that
I
he had
hate
to pay
this guy.
taxes on this. And I remember seeing this and
I hate
feeling a
this
little
guy.
bit like weirded out by it, because at the end of the day, did he go through something potentially very bad? And do I feel a little sympathy for him? Yes, of course. But to
I
me,
do not.
complaining about the fact that you got $100,000,
I do
which,
not.
to be clear, is double what the average
yeah.
household in the
I
United
do.
States makes in an entire calendar year.
That's what the
and he
tip
got it in
button is
just
for.
11 days. I mean, taxes are
Feel
going to
free
come
to
with
use
the
it.
territory. To complain about the amount of money you got seems silly. Now, despite a few inconsistencies and some problems with his retelling, I do think that Jake is ultimately telling the truth here for the most part. His tears do seem genuine, and I have no reason to doubt that the events he described actually happened and probably mentally affected him. If he had been making things up,
Whoa,
the
whoa,
claims
whoa.
probably would have been far more sensational. But once
Damn.
again, we kind of have to discuss two schools of
Where the hell did
thought
that come
around
from?
this issue and how public perception was at the time. The main perspective of this was basically Mr. Beast is a really effed up guy for doing this. And the reason for that comes in the form of the ethics of Mr.
It was
Beast
all
doing this
optional.
challenge in the first
You
place.
agreed
The idea
to
that
all
any
of it.
normal
You could have
person in
said
a
no.
moderate or poor financial situation would have a hard time saying no to these challenges because of how much money Mr. Beast was promising is a very convincing argument. Right?
Oh,
And of
not
course, It
really.
is kind of hard to say no to life-changing money like that, even if the consequences could ultimately be poor for your health in the long run.
You still
But
get
then
money
there
for
is the
leaving
other
early, though.
perspective. Sure,
Jesus.
the challenge does not sound like a leisurely stroll, but a lot of people felt that his dramatic reactions felt somewhat exaggerated. We can't forget the
Yeah.
fact that he did walk away from
Right
this
here.
with $110,000 for 11 days. Even after taxes, he still pocketed 60 grand. A lot of people contend that for less than 2 weeks of work, that's not really something to complain about. And a lot of
more
people
than-
would point
it's
out
more than
that
most of those
after
people
appearing
make in a
Dog
year.
Pack's interview, Jake would later admit in interviews
So
that the
fuck you.
challenges were in fact not mandatory, and he technically could have left. He did not have to be there, and there wasn't really any real pressure for him necessarily to be there because he was not a Mr. Beast employee at this point in time. He was just a guy on his own. He didn't risk being fired or kicked out or anything like
Yep.
that, right?
It was
It was
all
just an
optional.
offer from Mr. Beast saying, hey, why don't you be in my challenge video? I'll pay you a lot of money.
When making these allegations or talking about the situation, your wording is very important, and how specific the wording is.
I agree.
Is
I
very,
agree.
very important.
Yes.
So, for example, there'd
I
be a
agree.
huge difference if Mr. Beast told you outright, "No, you have to do this," or you felt like pressured into doing it. So, like when
Well,
I
yeah,
ask you,
because
were
then it'd be a
these
crime. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I guess just I want clarification on that because I feel like you're answering some of these in
Yep.
like blatant no's.
Excuse
So I just want to clarify that. So were these marathons or challenges mandatory?
Again,
Nope.
I'm gonna say technically no, but all the points I made in the video about why I was pressured to do so still are aggressively valid, and I feel like saying, well, he technically had the ability to leave. Technically, yes. I want to keep using the word technically. That's what technically means. This wasn't a crime.
So I think that your perception on this issue is going to kind of
Oh,
fall on where you
God.
feel about personal responsibility and the position that Jake was in
Yeah,
to
fuck
decline
this
this
guy.
challenge. Was it unethical for Mr. Beast to offer this challenge in the first place? And in the case of Jake Weddle, how much responsibility should he face for agreeing to this challenge at all? Now, besides
All
all
of
that,
it.
there are other
All
things
of the
people took as
responsibility.
reasons to just not like Jake personally. For example, the fact that after complaining about having to pay taxes, he talks about how he somehow managed to spend all of the money from this challenge on his stand-up career.
I spent
That went nowhere.
$44,000 in taxes alone. And now I spent all that money on doing stand up. I just
And how did that work out for you?
plane tickets to go do comedy festivals, you know.
I'm going to make the argument here that if you spend $50,000 on your stand-up career before it even starts, you might just not be that good at comedy. Typically, the idea behind building any kind of business in the entertainment world is you start out typically doing it for free, so you are kind of technically losing money by not dedicating that time to something you can make money on, but over time, as you get better at that skill, you'll start making money from it. The idea of investing 50 grand into a comedy career that hasn't even started is definitely kind of silly. Like, why are you paying to go to comedy conventions before you're even good at stand-up? Another point of contention is that Jake kind of falls into the whole type of guy thing, the bread tuber archetype, and that is another thing, to be honest, that when I first saw him, I was like, you know,
The word
he is
for
that
that
kinda
is
guy. But that's
pussy.
not a very good
The
argument.
man's
That's
a
just kind of
pussy.
whatever. That's just like a personal, like, you know, cringe, but it doesn't really matter. Now, there's another thing from Jake's original interview with Dogpack, as well as his content in general, that I have neglected to mention. So you're just going to have to stay with me here on this one. But he often brings up the fact that his dad is a convicted file. And obviously, he can
Yep.
talk about that all he wants. I'm not, like, using that as a point against him or anything. This is his story to discuss. He can talk about it whenever he wants. But the problem, in my opinion, is that when this controversy was going on, it was also at the peak of the claims about Delaware, the convicted RSO that Mr. Beast had hired. There were also the claims of Chris Tyson and Mr. Beast knowing all about Chris Tyson. That idea was being pushed a lot. The idea that Mr. Beast knew about these
Oh my
weird
God.
DMs. And Jake was very
What is-
clearly
what is
wrapped
this
up
pain?
in the idea at the time that Mr. Beast knew he hired Delaware and knew that he was some kind of offender, and also wrapped up in the idea that Mr. Beast 1000% knew that Chris Tyson was creeping on the youngins, right? He knew that Chris Tyson was a gooner. And so amidst all of this, Jake went on to compare Mr. Breast to his father, Nathan Weddle, on like 3 separate occasions.
My dad was this like a swim coach, your neighborhood swim team. Everybody loved it. Behind closed doors, he's a real piece of shit. And so when stuff started hitting the fan, what? Him? No. Surely. But then the news broke, you know, that he did what he did to one of the students of the team. But I wasn't surprised. And it was just consequences happening to somebody who was really good at avoiding them for a long time. And I don't know, everybody loves Jimmy. And behind closed doors, he is not super great.
Oh my
Using
God.
Jimmy.
Fuck this guy so much. You're using your dad's crimes with a minor, his child enjoyment, if you will, to say that he's a piece of shit and then immediately go, well, he was a piece of shit behind closed doors, so I'm not surprised that Jimmy was. Like you're putting Mr. Beast in the same boat as that because he didn't pay the taxes on winnings he gave you to a challenge you agreed to do that you didn't like, that you found to be too challenging. Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy so much.
Of being a file, but there's
No,
a lot
for
of
sure, but
file
you can-
adjacent accusations happening.
Well,
So yeah.
Well, yeah, that last part of your sentence is kind of the reason why I feel like it's justified to go at your approach here. I mean,
Jesus.
you kind of are like alluding towards certain things about Mr. Beast by comparing him to your dad,
look,
and then you're talking about other things Mr. Beast is related. You know what I mean?
Probably knew about those Discord chats and covered him up. That's at the very least we can say is probably maybe true, right? So Ava was confirmed in those Discord chats. Delaware is a confirmed sex offender that worked at the place. And I was just saying a personal story. I would talk about what my dad was like.
Oh, I'm
like,
just
"What,
saying a
that guy?
personal
No
story.
way,"
You
know?
knew
And it
the
wasn't
context
until,
of the story you
news
were
broke
saying, though. Like, you knew why you
and
were
he
saying
did something
that, right?
bad to a kid that people, started changing their attitude, and I got a lot of sorries. I don't know. Just seemed like a relevant story.
How? How?
Hassan,
How was
keep
that
the
relevant?
family away. Moist, keep the family away.
I don't think you need to be a Mr. Beast
He's not
glazer
funny.
to
He's
understand
not
how this
funny.
is kind of a weird comparison. Like comparing him to an actual creeper guy is probably a bad idea. I get that this is Jake's personal experience with his father, and I think it's fair that he discuss it whenever he wants, but I will say I think that he's kind of wrapping in some of his past trauma and projecting it here onto another situation that's not really the same. But for the time being, that was really all anyone had seen of Jake Weddle. He was in this dog pack video that got 12 million views. Every commentary channel, including myself, was talking about the story and had just been introduced to him, and he was in thumbnails all across YouTube as one of the quote-unquote victims of Mr. Beast. But then something kind of interesting happened. You see, Dogpack had shouted
He
out
thought he
Jake
had
Weddle's
found his
YouTube
15
channel
minutes
in
of
his
fame.
video. So Jake went from being a completely unknown guy with like 500 subscribers to having 200,000 on YouTube. And with that newfound audience, he was kind of in a position to either make or break a YouTube career based on what he did past this point. And so with his appearance in Dogpack's video, that
what
same
did he
day
do with his
uploaded
15
own
minutes?
Video titled "The Real Reason I Left Mr. Beast." Bigger, longer, uncut. Who else does that describe?
You are gay.
Now in this video, Jake doesn't really share anything new beyond what was already covered in the Dogpack video, but there are a couple of noteworthy
Oh my God,
moments
with
that
the
I think are
vaulting.
worth addressing. Near the end, Jake chooses to call his mom to back up his version of events. Naturally, his mother, because she is his mother, wholeheartedly validates everything he says, because why would she not? But there is a little irony here in that Jake himself says in Dogpack's video that his
Oh,
mom has
God.
no problem lying in these kind of
Damn
situations.
it.
I think that little detail makes her testimony a little bit more questionable. Like, it's kind of weird that on the same exact day, Jake was interviewed
very
and
good
talked
with the
about
controller. I
how
gotta do
bad
better
Mr.
at this.
Beast was, and in that same video talked about how his mom is untrustworthy. He then called her in the video on his own channel and like was like, oh, listen to what my mom said. It's kind of odd.
Oh,
Mom,
God.
I'm about
It's
to
just-
call
it
you about the
overcorrects.
meteor thing. You have no idea? Be surprised. And then I hit send, and then they go, call your mom now. And I call my mom and I tell her, and oh, she should have got the Oscar.
Mom, can you do me a favor?
I can try.
But regardless, this video got over 1 million views. It got a lot more subscribers for Jake. It boosted him.
I'll
Was
call
it a
my mom.
necessary
That'll
upload to
prove it.
make? Probably not. But he was capitalizing on the attention, so we'll give him that one, all right? That's a freebie. He's capitalizing on what he's getting. He wanted to give people
He
who
tried.
saw the interview a video to watch on his channel that kind of aligned with that. So now there's this big audience of people. They're all subscribed to Jake Weddle, and they all know him from Mr. Beast thing. They don't really know anything about him beyond that. They just are subscribing basically out of pity. So he ends up uploading a few more videos, one of them being a response to Jake the Viking, who, by the way, was the guy who was like criticizing Jimmy all the time. He was like, guys, Jimmy knew about Chris Tyson. And then it turned out that Jake the Viking's own brother-in-law was also the convicted sex offender that Mr.
Womp
Beast had
womp.
hired. And not only that, but Jake testifies that he
You couldn't
personally
write this
knew
shit,
the entire
man.
time. Like Jake knew. Not Jake Weddle, Jake the Viking. He knew. Great job, other
So
Jakes.
many
Got, like, the
Jakes.
jacked Jake
Why is it
here
everyone
and the
named
soy
Jake's a
Jake.
piece of
tale
shit?
two Jakes. Mr. Weddle here then
There's
made
any
another
Jakes
video talking
watching
about how
right
he
now.
wrote Mr. Beast's
Maybe get a
videos
nickname.
and how
I don't
he
know what to
wrote
tell you.
everyone's childhood.
You
But
guys
the
don't have
important thing
the,
here is that the views
best
were
track
totally
record. You're
different.
3 for
The video
3 right
about
now.
Jake the Viking got 500K.
3-0.
The video about how he wrote all of your childhoods got 90K. So he really needed another banger on his channel to keep this up. So around 2 weeks after the original Dogpack interview, Jake Weddle would release another upload titled "I Caught Jimmy in a Secret Recording." And a lot of people saw this and were like, whoa, what's going on here? A secret recording? He has more info on Mr. Beast? So Jake basically lured people in with the idea. He caught him on camera doing something bad, but spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, he didn't. The so-called recording is actually a deep fake that someone else sent him that he then put in the video. To Jake's credit, he does admit that it's fake, so he's not outright lying.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna lie, that was a pretty damn good AI, wasn't it?
But framing it in this way is undeniably kind of shady clickbait. There's no real recording to reveal here. And I don't really have a problem with clickbait in principle. I'm not really that mad at
What
it.
the
But
hell?
what this clickbait really
Where did the
shows is
bullets
that
go?
Jake is still kind of relying on the attention from the Mr. Beast thing to get anyone to watch his channel ever.
Yep.
From a content creator perspective, when you get a lot of subscribers for one reason, you're often tempted to just milk that one reason over and over and over. But realistically speaking, this is not going to accrue you an audience of people who actually want to watch
Nope.
you. It's just going to be
They're
people who
just
want to
there
hear
for
about
that
Mr. Beast
thing.
drama. But beyond the clickbait, there actually was something interesting.
You got to do
At a
something to
later point in the
transition them,
video,
man.
Jake reveals that Mr.
You got to
Beast
win them
had
over.
actually
And he
texted
didn't do
him. He
that.
explains that Jimmy reached out to him privately to apologize for whatever he went through during this challenge. And on top of that, Mr. Beast also offers to pay the remaining balance for the challenge days that Jake did not complete, which is something that Mr. Beast did
Holy
not
shit.
necessarily need to do.
No, he
have to
didn't
do this. You can make
have
the
to do
argument
that at
of, well,
all.
he has so much money, he just wanted to look good. He wanted Jake to leak it so he would look
Who
good,
cares?
like he's giving him a
It's
bunch of
still
money.
him
Or you
getting
can make
money.
the argument, if you like Mr. Beast, that he was clearly
still
trying to
him
give
getting
money
the
because
thing
felt
he
bad
said he
for him or
needed.
something. But whatever the case, Jake didn't want to keep this interaction private. He wanted to broadcast it to his YouTube channel and talk about it. And at this point, Jake reenacts his phone call with Jimmy using his comedic skills to detail how Jimmy had offered him $190,000, which would be the remainder of the money he would have gotten if he had completed
Which he
the
should have
challenge.
took.
But Jake says that instead he chose to only take $50,000 for moral reasons. He makes a really big show of it and declares that he would never accept all of the money because of his authenticity and he would feel slimy accepting all of it or something. But whether he took part of it or all of it, the moral issue he's presenting is still the same. Either you
Yeah.
reject the money or you don't reject it and just take it all. Like, if you're going to take some of the money, it doesn't make you a better person to decline the rest.
Guys,
That
guys,
doesn't really make
guys.
sense. Where else
I
is that
only
money going?
robbed
To Africa?
one
To
of the
children
bank
in Africa?
vaults.
No.
So I'm a
for
good
you.
person,
So you
see?
should just accept all of it. You're not a better person for not accepting it. And the way that Jake views Mr. Beast is very, very negatively. He views him as like some kind of African warlord. You're basically taking Blood Diamond
Okay,
money
the
here,
card has
right? And so
disappeared.
it's like, all right, guys, listen, I'm a good person. I'm only going to take $50,000 from the Blood Diamond guy, not the full amount, all right? Because I'm a good dude. I would feel slimy taking it all. But 50 grand? All right, give me that. Despite pocketing the cash, Jake makes the case that he hates money. But for someone who hates money, he does talk about it a lot.
I've turned down a lot of money before, just because you know,
Because you're an
it's
idiot.
not about. I don't give. I don't care about money.
You
I
should.
think everybody should just be able to eat food and have a house and get medical care. I
Yeah.
hate money so much.
Money is how you do
Way of
that.
My life, I hate it.
You're gonna get $300,000.
He's
for these
retarded.
$10,000 a day. I
He's
said,
retarded.
Excuse me. I'll dance for you if you put that kind of money in my face. Sure.
I gotta make that sweet SEO go burr, son. When I make the SEO go burr, I get money, and then I get to eat, I get to live, I get food. Was when you have no money. It's not a choice, is it? So, I need that money. If you want to
Yeah, you do.
donate to me or my Patreon, so if you want to see any of those
But you don't
projects get
need
made,
money.
then donate
But
to my
you need
Patreon.
money.
So if you want to prove a point, Patreon in the link
He's
below.
moral when it suits his
I
narrative.
promise
Fuck this guy.
Now, in terms of Jake's audience, this was overall positively received. A lot of people were like, how gross of Mr. Beast to offer you money as if that fixes what happened. But there were also a lot of smaller commentary
What is
channels who
wrong
were
with
basically
people?
laughing at him, mocking him for this idea that he's a better person for declining
'Cause
some of
he's
the
not,
cash. And
yeah.
one particular guy that you guys may know,
He's worthy of
Nicholas Diorio,
mockery.
would also stream himself covering the drama and reacting to Jake's Instagram stories.
One of the nukes. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it. James Warren. Sex work is work. This should be, legalized and regulated so that people in those industries don't get hurt, right?
Agreed.
That's my opinion on that. I have
I agree with
friends
him there.
in those industries. People I used to go to high school with, and I stayed in touch with, and they can't text me fast enough. When they say, "Hey, do you know this guy, James Warren?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" "Oh
Please
yeah,
tell me,
yeah, I
please tell
worked
me.
with him a few
Please
times."
tell me, please tell me.
He loves to pay us to be around, and then he likes to show us his bank account and show us how much money he has. People he paid to be around, for that kind of stuff. Which again, that's fine, but it's weird and cringe to pay those people to be around and then take out your
What is
phone
money
and
to
show
you,
them how much
person?
money you
Who is
Why?
screenshots to prove that? Of course I do.
That's it.
Do I want
To be clear, he just described a sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship. The whole reason the girl is there is for the money. And the way to impress them is to show them how much of it you have. So they know how much they could possibly get if they continue to keep daddy happy. That's the relationship. That's just how that works. He's just describing what a sugar daddy is.
Danger the people who send
Endanger them? This isn't even that was a nuke?
me those things. No, I do not.
This isn't a nuke.
Because that's what's difficult about this.
I don't think he knows what
is
nuke
people don't
means.
come forward because of you trolls. Everyone is terrified to come forward. Oh, everyone's anonymous. That's because you people are insane. That's why people are anonymous, and that's why he's gotten away with
No, because they're afraid of being
people on the internet
sued, retard. Just shut up.
this for so long. It's because of you people who harass people on the internet. That's why this happens, and that's why it continues to happen.
Oh my god.
So if you don't know what you're talking about, shut the fuck up.
But despite the fact
Oh
that
my
Jake
God.
mostly had positive attention on him, and Nicholas Diorio is, relatively speaking, a pretty small creator, Jake did not take this well, and it kind of led to a full-on mental breakdown over Instagram. I'm not going to fully read out every single screenshot of it, but there are literally 20 different screenshots of this implosion, and clearly people making fun of him was really affecting him. Disappearing for a bit, it's been an incredibly difficult few days. As more stuff comes out,
And you want to be
more
a famous
subjected to people
comedian?
picking apart my testimony.
What are you gonna
discrediting
do when
me,
you get a
lying
heckler?
about me, using my trauma for clout, comments, emails,
Oh my
DMs,
God.
a leaked phone number. My family has been
This
harassed.
guy
And
sucks.
for what? Because I told you guys what happened to me? Because I told you Jimmy hires and protects PDFs? My mental health is at an all-time low, and it's because of you, idiot. Hateful. And
So get therapy. All of this is a you problem. Get fucking therapy. You weak-willed fuck.
can't stress enough, dumber than dirt trolls. What happened to me is real. You don't get PTSD over nothing. You weren't there. I was. Which makes me more informed. Period. I am the only one who has any authority over this story.
I got PTSD because I got locked in a room with a lukewarm hot tub. Oh, I had a pool table and entertainment that didn't entertain me, and I had to stay in there for $10,000 a day. Oh, the trauma. This guy.
Story. And you either are a child or a sweaty edgelord dipshit. Go freak yourself, go freak yourself, go freak yourself, go freak yourself. Go up to a victim and tell them it's their fault next. Oh
He's
wait, that's
schizo
exactly
now.
what Jimmy's fans do to
Did he just compare himself? Okay.
the numerous allegations coming out from employees, contestants, you name it. Regular uploads, ugly duck workshops, podcasts, streaming, all picking back up next week. My regular uploads are all going to be back next week, but I'm taking some time to get my mental health back, despite Mr. Beast fans doing their best to kill me. But before I go, let me spell it out for you real slow so you can have it spoon-fed to you. Now, this message is kind of funny, but I think it is important to have a little bit of sympathy for Jake here. If his family is being harassed or his phone number
Wait, why? Why? Why would I have sympathy for this man? He brought it all on himself. All he had to do was stay in a room and get paid. And then take the money offered to him for not doing the challenge to complete the money he would have made and just get paid and then go do something else with your money. Like, just, you want to be a comedian? Like, you invited all this attention. No sympathy. And you brought your mom into it intentionally on a video. I have sympathy for his mother. She didn't ask for any of this. But my God, it's all your fault. Like, this is all on you, buddy.
number is leaked. That sucks. That should never have happened. And on top of that, Jake Weddle is relatively new to being a public figure on this scale. He had probably never received any kind of online scrutiny or being made
Doesn't
fun of
matter.
before. And now all of a sudden he's a part of the biggest YouTube controversy of all
This
time.
is what he
I don't
wanted, though.
expect him to act perfect.
This is what he want. No, not act perfect, but you can act better than this. Like, he should have been more mentally prepared than a normal person because he literally wanted this kind of attention. He literally invited it. He literally invited this kind of attention. Blowing up like this is the thing that he wanted to happen to him. And now that he's got it, he wants out. It's a real careful what you wish for situation here. He asked for this. Literally asked for this. He ran from me. So he should have been mentally prepared for the blow up that he wanted.
perfect. But I will say, this in and of itself is just not the way to handle this kind of situation. For example,
Nope.
imagine the amount of death threats that Mr. Beast and all of his employees got for this controversy, which undoubtedly was partially because Jake said a war crime had
Yep.
been committed against him. People
Yep.
shouldn't make super insane comments.
Went
towards
both
Jake
ways,
with
buddy.
death threats or anything
Whatever you
that
think
was
happened to
happening,
you
but at this
was
point,
probably
you kinda do
worse
have
than
to just
Mr.
walk
Beast.
away from the computer. And on top of that, even the actual stuff he says here is insane. I mean, he compares the online hate he got to being a victim of assault. Jake, you were a part of a very ill-informed, ill-advised YouTube challenge that mentally affected you, and I can feel bad for you, but you're not the same as a victim. But he didn't really get the memo on this, unfortunately, and after that, Jake would continue to crash out on Twitter for a while until people started realizing something funny, a bit goofy even was going on. And this is where the story really gets interesting to me. And it's at this point I have to introduce you to a new character, which is Jake's girlfriend, Lex. Now, Lex
Oh,
was a public
God.
figure. She had been trying to stream and get content going for quite a while. She's dating Jake, so obviously there's, you know, a content creation bond tie there, whatever. And people started noticing that it seemed like Jake's girlfriend was using alt accounts on Twitter to defend him in literally every single reply mentioning him. The two had previously streamed themselves reacting to Rosanna Pansina's video with Dogpack404 against Mr. Beast, showcasing what they believed to be CP at the time. For 2 hours, they basically blindly affirmed and agreed with everything presented in the video, and they provided no actual critiques, like of the fact that Rosanna put what she believed to be CP in the thumbnail of that video, or the fact that they called it CP when it actually was not that. But at this point, Jake, his girl, and a few other people like Dogpack were kind of a part of the anti-Mr. Beast squad, and despite the fact that there were some seemingly legitimate criticisms coming out before that point in time, they were kind of running with anything they could get to make the story blow up bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the edit made it look like she was hiding in a cupboard and she got... Dude, it was the most cancerous criticism ever. And if anything, it kind of only held up more valid criticism of Mr. Beast because people were going, yeah, this is stupid. And now, in everything she's done, she's come forward in this kind of like smug, retarded fashion to act like, oh, I was right, guys. I was right about Mr. Beast.
No, you weren't.
You weren't right about Mr. Beast. All of these people that were talking about the blind shit and saying about how bad it is and how it's pro-capitalism, they weren't right about Mr. Beast, okay? All of these people that have come forward to make their stupid claims about Mr. Beast are not proven correct by what's happened recently. It is a total cancer narrative that I completely reject. You don't get to act like you're right about something because other people come forward with other claims that are nothing to do with what you fucking said. Unearthed footage of me telling a story I'm very public about and doing a joke I still do on stage. But hey, thanks for plugging my friend's pod and my NC tour. Also, the family of my dad's victims love this episode and my bits about it on stage. Fuck you. Is this ninja even funny? He's getting mocked by a 9-person poll. Oh my god, no.
Now, as people started digging further into Twitter replies, they just kind of kept adding up. It seemed like literally whenever anyone uttered the word Jake Weddle, his girlfriend would be there in the comment section defending him. So here we have this guy on Twitter saying this guy's
this
face
is
in
bad.
my book shitting on Jake
You got your
Weddle.
mom
And then
to
we have
defend you
Lex
in
here
one
saying,
video,
"You can talk to my
and now your
attorney about
girlfriend's
any
defending
further
you on Twitter."
questions." So she's implying legal action or something for being mean to him. Then we have this one of her saying, if only Jimmy didn't blackmail people and record his employees 24/7, maybe they'd feel more comfortable leaving. But when they do, they get slandered by people like you on alt accounts online to high hell. Heart emoji. And she was getting more and more conspiratorial with time. Here she said, lolling at this, knowing Jimmy pays drama and commentary channels to make videos defaming the people speaking out about him. Did you know their internal investigation actually did not contact most of their employees? Time will tell you the things we can't right now. Now, it's important to note that at this point, the narrative around Mr. Beast was changing because Soggy Cereal had recently released his video talking about Dogpack404 and how a lot of the claims that Dogpack made about Mr. Beast were not really true. In fact, the majority of them seemingly were fabricated in retrospect. And so the narrative was changing quite a bit around the entire drama. But after this video came out, Lex was looking for communities that would sympathize with her, and she found that on r/YouTube drama, where she said,
Oh,
thank you for all the
no.
support in here. It's refreshing to see people giving honest thoughts and balanced takes on the situation.
When
It's been
that's the
rough lately,
community
and we
you
have
go
been
to?
threatened in so many ways, but we're holding strong, and part of it is thanks to you guys. Thank you. And then she attached an image here of her with Jake, which led a lot of people to make fun of him for seemingly using his girlfriend as a shield for any criticism. Now, I will say, to extend a little
Rightfully
bit of sympathy
so.
here, even once again, these guys have not been public
This
figures
man
for
is
very
hiding
long
behind
in the
women.
spotlight. They're not really used to this kind of thing. So Lex probably thinks it's a good idea to go and dispel any claims about Jake and argue with random people on Twitter. But this is a bad idea. First of all, Jake, you should not be letting your girlfriend run around defending you at every single moment possible, spending all day in Twitter replies,
True.
especially when some of the stuff she's saying is kind of like not true and she's like kind of threatening legal action, like, you can speak to my lawyers. That's not a good look. But after all of this went down, Jake and Lex would end up deleting their Twitter, and things would mostly be silent about the pro Weddle and the anti Weddle crowd until about 2 weeks later, when something else that's kind of interesting happened. You see, we have to introduce a new character, a YouTuber named Hellbent. And Hellbent would make an interesting video on Weddle titled "Jake Weddle Taught Me That He Won't Shut Up About Mr. Beast." Now, the premise itself is that
Got
this
stuck on
Hellbent
the
lady
fucking
essentially
environment.
had infiltrated Jake's Patreon page, his Patreon comedian course where he's teaching people comedy or something, I don't even know. And in her words, she wanted to see what it was all about, and she wanted to find some funny things about Jake Weddle. She basically frames it right as like, I'm gonna find dirt on Jake Weddle. I will say the premise of this Patreon itself is kind of insane. Like, Jake's trying to get people to give him money so they can talk about jokes and joke theory. Like, why would you pay for that? Not a great value proposition. If there's anyone I want to discuss the theory of comedy with, it's definitely Jake Weddle.
That's right, Patreon members who join with a $3, $5, or $10 subscription, anybody gets access to the code to the Discord that brings us to the Ugly Duck workshops. We talk about jokes, we punch up jokes, people bring jokes, I bring jokes, I am going on tour, I gotta work on my jokes. We talk about comedy theory. Why is that joke funny?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Comedy theory, guys.
If somebody has to
Comedy
explain it to
theory
you,
with
it's
Jake
not
Weddle.
funny.
Shoot the shit. And
Doesn't
talk
that
about
worth paying for?
We're paying to
Regardless,
shoot
they
the
are
shit with Jake.
highlights of
Oh my
my
god.
Jake Weddle
He's so
explains the
desperate
joke
for
to
the
you.
money
But
he doesn't
Hellbent had
want.
seen that out of about
The money
90
he
different
hates.
patrons, there were about 5 of them that were actually active around
This
the
guy.
chats for comedy theory and the workshop. And after prying
Everybody
a bit
else
more,
is
she
there
was
for
able
Mr.
to
Beast
get
stuff.
into the exclusive Discord workshop to chill and tell some epic comedy jokes. Now, once again, Hellbent is very forward here about her intentions of obviously finding anything she can about Jake Weddle to kind of make fun of him for. And she says she pretty much expected it to be dog shit, just, you know, stuff to make fun of him for in the first place. So it wasn't that serious.
I'd like to clarify my intentions. If you think that I'm a scheming, drama-hungry slop peddler who had malicious intentions going in, you are not wrong. I always expected the workshop to be dog shit in some shape or form, but I thought that if there were any content to be made from infiltrating it, it would probably be me goofing on Weddle for the lack of effort.
But it turns out she found a lot more than just a questionable workshop.
She got her
explains
$3
process of
worth.
Getting to that point by uncovering a few wacky things. Jake's workshop here is what he referred to as a loose format, basically meaning that if nobody brings jokes, they'll just spend an hour that people paid for in a Discord call shooting the shit about nothing. During a call, Jake would even admit that the Patreon itself was shit and he had been lacking due to the Mr. Beast stuff. He didn't really know what to do, but he had some great news. Jake had hired a personal assistant to assist answering Instagram messages from people asking him why he hates
This
money.
is what he spent
There's
that
no
money
reason
on.
to respond to messages from random people. This is not a thing you need to do or should be spending your time doing. And I
Or
don't
money
need
on.
to hire a personal assistant to do that either. Like, that is such a waste of time. But it
And
turns out
retarded.
that this assistant is actually just Jake's girlfriend, which makes a lot more sense. Jake
Yep.
would also tease a future of some banging content he would be releasing, where he said there would be another bombshell relating to Mr. Beast, and that was going to be on Rosanna Pansino's channel. And that is when Hellbent started recording and got a very fat audio conversation with Jake that was illuminating in many ways.
Really excited for the video.
So she cucked us from the content right here. I want you guys to know that. There was a video planned. A third video on Rosina's channel featuring Jake Weddle, where he was going to drop nukes, which would probably be more slanderous lies about Mr. Beast. And he only wants to talk about Mr. Beast on her channel and give her that content if in exchange he got the last 5 minutes of the video to do stand-up. So she would let him do a comedy routine at the end of the video for 5 unfiltered minutes, uninterrupted. Oh my god. That's two big pieces of content that we could have just picked the juicy meats off of. I can only imagine how outlandish whatever new claims they would have made up would have been for the Mr. Beast part, and the cherry on top being the worst stand-up possible to just clown on for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes at the end. Well, it would have been 10 minutes. I would have spent 5 minutes making fun of it. Jesus Christ, I cannot believe that you should have waited until that video came out before you released this, because this would have been the perfect companion piece to it. But then this came out, and they decided not to release that third video. So we don't get to see his shitty stand-up. We don't get to hear his bad, extremely bad, new allegations that he was saving. All of that sweet, sweet content. And now that Mr. Beast is suing Dogpack 404, we're definitely never getting that content, because Jake Weddle's going to be too scared to ever talk about Mr. Beast again, and rightfully so, because you played a part in that slander. And Rosina is probably also going to get sued. I hope that she also gets sued. I hope he doesn't just sue Dogpack, but also her, because she is very much just on board platforming this kid and helping to play a part in his slander. But that's a video for another time. That's another video we can react to, is how this kid is just malicious from start to finish. He only made accusations because he was a disgruntled employee. Like, he just made it all up. He just made it all up. So did Jake.
And I want to make sure it comes out when the and little fun fact, at the end of Rosanna's video, they actually let me do 5 minutes of stand-up.
Yeah, there it is.
In front of everybody that they could gather in Rosanna's studio, and then there's going to be a call to action to my channel as well. So that's both of those videos coming out. It's very, very exciting.
Now that video with the bombshell is probably not going to come out now that Dogpack 404 got dumpstered, and there's been legal action threatened against him in particular, and I'm sure Rosanna Pansino was pretty scared about the prospect of legal action for Mr. Beast. But I will say, just imagining the end of a Mr. Beast exposed video that was like some kind of bombshell, the idea that the end of that would be 5 minutes of Jake Weddle doing stand-up with a call to action to like and subscribe is like, that is funny. I wish we got to see that, kind of. Okay, I do. Yeah, guys, we have proof of Mr. Beast trafficking children to some secret island where he was making the meat feastables all day. And by the way, here's some wacky stand-up from our friend Jake Weddle. Everyone clap for Jake.
Yeah, it's such a weird way to end that kind of video, too.
Now, at this point, Hellbent apparently decided to confront Jake Weddle over what Rosanna and Dogpack did with their alleged CP that they found exposing Mr. Beast, which was not really CP. The two of these people literally thought they had downloaded illegal content in order to expose Mr. Beast. It's this whole like autism thing. But Jake's response to this is even better, because he says that they are working with the FBI, as if the FBI is at Rosanna's house and they're like hunkered down, like, we're investigating Mr. Beast right now.
After basically Dogpack or whatever his name is, Dawson and Rosanna told that they had CP, downloaded it to censor it and reverse search it, and then they're so lucky that it wasn't CP, because otherwise they would have committed a crime.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't disagree with you more. I mean, that would implicate the FBI as well as like, oh, you guys watch CP?
How would that implicate the FBI? They're allowed to watch it. It's part of their investigation. They look at criminal shit all the time. Like how are you supposed to investigate the criminal content that people might make or consume if you're not looking at it yourself? Like, the investigators have to look at that content to verify that it is the content. Like, somebody has to look at the evidence to say what the evidence is in court. You dumb shit. Oh my God. Yeah. The FBI gets a pass on that. They're allowed to look at that in their offices, at work, when they're reviewing evidence for... I hate this guy so much.
Yeah, well, I do think there's a huge difference between people trying to stop files versus people who are being files.
There's a difference between downloading all of the logs and not knowing that's in there, and specifically going out to get that picture and then send it to someone thinking.
Yeah, but Dawson specifically then got that image from the logs.
Yes, the FBI are the people who are supposed to look at it.
At the time that was CP, and the difference between him and FBI is that one is the authority that is obligated.
That's why
that is
to the authorities, and it was reported to the authorities long before Rosanna even said that she was reporting it to the authorities. Rosanna's been working with the FBI for quite some time.
Yeah, the point is that they should have reported it and left it there and downloaded it, censored it.
You're not, just because you're working with the FBI doesn't mean you get to do the illegal thing. It means you're supposed to report the illegal thing and let them look at it.
I don't think everything Rosanna Pansino, the cooking channel, has been doing has an official approval of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. There's going to be a little bit of generalizing here, but when you submit a tip to the FBI, they don't like work hand in hand with you like in a movie. 99% of the time, they'll just not respond, and on the off chance they do use your information, they're not going to be encouraging YouTubers to make public statements about how they're working with them. So either Rosanna lied to Jake, or she had some delusion about the situation and said this to Jake, or Jake is delusional about the idea that she's working with the FBI. There's something going on here. A little bit of a side note here, but this is a common trend with a lot of people. It's like, I'm working with the FBI, I'm working with them, and it's like you sent them an email or something.
Yeah,
like it's not really.
It's not
but
how
Jake
that
seemed to be
works.
under the impression here that the Bureau was closing in on Mr. Beast. It was almost over. Seemingly as some kind of mental justification for like, all right, well, there's a few people giving me hate online right now. They're making fun of me. The controversies died down publicly, but Detective Rosanna is on the case. Now, according to Hellbent, after this interview happened, she had planned on not really posting it at all because she couldn't find a good justification for doing it. In her words, most of the info was already known, which I kind of disagree with. I do think that, you know, some of this is really funny stuff, but all that would change once Soggy Cereals uploaded his video where he exposed Dogpack for a lot of the lies he had told. He criticized Rosanna, he criticized Jake, and I think there is a lot to criticize Soggy for, like the fact that he ultimately was given money by a Mr. Beast employee to fly out there and get some testimony from them. Like, there was of conflict of interest there, undoubtedly there is, but even with the stuff outside of that, there were a lot of points he really got Dogpack on that I think really did a good job of discrediting a lot of the claims he made and showing that Dogpack was not being totally honest with his videos at all. But a few days after Soggy's video dropped, Jake would talk about this in his Patreon chat, where he said, "Hey fellas, just wanted to be transparent with you. With the Soggy video coming out, I have received a massive uptick in online harassment and threats against my life. I apologize for being missing in action, as me and now Lex have had to deal with Twitter and YouTube and Reddit and other various hate accounts targeting us." And I do think this is a better approach to handling this kind of thing. Instead of publicly crashing out about people being mean to you, you're kind of pulling back a little bit and saying, for my own sanity, I'm going to be, not really engaging with this, and that's fair. But at the time, Jake seemed to be very unwilling to acknowledge the fact that Dogpack did screw up a lot of this story, and in fact, he would end up saying, "Now I know what makes the cereal so soggy. Gluck Gluck 9000. So he's basically just completely unwilling to acknowledge that there were a lot of good criticisms made of Dogpack 404, and the story was a lot more complicated than
double and
Dogpack
triple
was willing
down,
to
huh,
admit in
buddy?
his original videos. And at the same time, Lex would go back to Twitter and white knight him again, replying to literally every single tweet mentioning his name and say things to the effect of like, fact checked. Hey, maybe you should ask that Soggy cereal guy why one of his current employees is telling people that
Where did the
Jimmy paid
bullets
for
go?
Soggy's travel for his media tour, which is essentially a nothing burger smear campaign against the people speaking up for victims. Maybe you should also ask why Dogpack actually hasn't been taken to court yet. 2 threatening cease and desist, but it's not defamation if it's true. Jimmy perhaps is afraid of going to Discovery. Also, might want to look into a dude named Gary Pastor. I don't know who that is. Source? Hi there, Lex here, Jake Weddle's partner. And she also made this tweet where she said, "I'd say Jake's doing
killing
just
you.
fine and doesn't give a shit, but who am I to know? Not like I'm his partner or anything." And she posts a picture of them hanging out like, "We don't care about any of this, guys. It doesn't bother us."
Why the f would you do this? Why would you post an image like this and be so openly embarrassing and pathetic? Please stop trying to peddle the Weddle. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
What?
He would later go on to write, "I had a lot of videos planned and I'm still working on them, but taking care of my safety and mental health has been a priority. Me and Lex are okay and safe, do not worry, but I just wanted to be transparent and show my appreciation for you all. I would not blame anyone for leaving this platform as it's been dry lately, but for those of you who are still here, you mean the world to me. Once this beast bullshit is behind me, content is coming." Now, when Hellbent would kind of pry into the situation further and ask Jake for specifics on what he thought were the lies, her messages actually got deleted by a moderator and she would be muted. This mod then said basically, "Hush little baby, we are not discussing that," which it is his Discord server, so I guess he has a right to do that. But it seems like overall Jake was unwilling to acknowledge that a lot of the claims made about Mr. Beast were not, very
skins
good,
are
not
actually
very good
dope.
claims. They also seem to be alluding to this like grand conspiracy where Mr. Beast is silencing everyone from talking about him, when, keep in mind, in retrospect, the only guy he sent a cease and desist to, as far as we know, is Dogpack, and Dogpack had clearly defamed Mr. Beast. Whether you like Mr. Beast or not, that did happen. Now, that's about it for Hellbent's video, but a few days later, another weird thing went down. You see, a small streamer named Queeman would get a copy of Jake's stand-up special, and he would react to it online. I'm unsure who exactly leaked it, but I'm gonna guess it was someone who spent $3 on his Patreon so they could download the video. Now, Queeman's stream itself was him basically roasting Jake Weddle stand-up, saying he's unfunny, but unfortunately, I can't show any of it because of what happened a few days later. Jake Weddle has made a delusional post on his Patreon threatening to use Mr. Beast's money to pay lawyers to send me a cease and desist for my tasteful and transformative fair use review of a portion of his new stand-up special. The review featured a limited section of the work, yet the runtime far exceeded the original, featuring numerous rewinds, extensive analysis, and long tangents comparing his comedy to other comedians. Having reviewed the special, I am certain that using his war crime reparations to sue me is a much better use of Jimmy Beast's 100K than perpetuating the cycle of abuse through his stand-up. And obviously at this point the story got a little bit bigger within the small commentary community. You have some people who are like, okay, well you leaked his stand-up, that's effed up. You have other people being like, well, he leaked a small portion of it. It's not like he was like making money off the stand-up itself. He was reacting to it and criticizing him. Therefore,
Also
he
fair.
has a right. There's kind of two different schools of thought once again. But Jake ended up making an announcement on his Patreon saying, "I've increased the special to the $10 tier because someone streamed it on Kick. I'm in contact with my lawyers. Everything's been documented and cease and
No, he's
desist will
not.
be sent out. My special
No, he's
drops
not.
on YouTube this holiday season on my YouTube channel. Thanks for the free promo, you morons." To any comedians who think this is funny, drop your special next and let's compare. Now, on one hand, there are some people not exactly defending Jake, but they are saying it was kind of a bad
God,
thing
the
to do
clout
to leak a
chasing is
special
real
like
with-
that. From
with
the
this
comedian
guy.
perspective, how a lot of these guys work is they travel around the country, performing everywhere, trying to perfect their stand-up until they eventually get it just right, and then they'll record it and post it on YouTube. But leaking their stand-up is like a very, very bad thing to them, right? They don't like that. Now,
Yeah,
I'm no
you
comedy
shouldn't do
expert,
that.
and I don't really like stand-up that much anyway, but it is my understanding that leaking a comedian's set is a major no-no in the comedy world, even more so than like
It is.
recording a concert or anything, which is like totally encouraged and nobody cares. Like, for example, when you go to see a huge comedian who is funny, like Dave Chappelle, a lot of the time they'll have you put your phone in a magnet case so no one leaks the special before it comes out. But on the other hand, Jake's stand-up is not very good, and that's not really a point against him in this case. I'm just saying that. But Queeman's stream was definitely transformative in the way that it was him roasting him for an hour rather than just like re-uploading it to make money off the stand-up.
Arguably more funny than the stand-up itself.
Stand-up, I'm trying to rip off his comedy and make money off of it. He was reacting to it. But after this lawsuit threat was made, another character enters the fold, and his name is Chud Logic. Now, Chud had a bit of a history with Jake Weddle. He had been covering him a lot on his YouTube channel, and he ended up making a point against him on Twitter that's pretty interesting. Jake Weddle, a couple of months ago, claimed that he was so badly in debt that taking $50K from Mr. Beast was necessary to reset him back to zero. Since then, he spent money on streaming equipment, directly referencing the blood money from Mr. Beast, and is now threatening two smaller creators, being Hellbent and Queeman, with expensive international lawsuits. His channel has dropped off significantly since he was involved in the drama. Where is all this money coming from? Or is it empty threats? Or was he lying about needing the money to reset back to zero from debt? He is lying. The only question is what part in particular. I guess I forgot to add in here that Jake's girlfriend would also go full schizo and threaten Hellbent with a lawsuit.
Well, this isn't a debate. Jake made a demand that was very clear to delete the video. You choose to keep it up, unlisted and unproposed counter offers. But when you receive a demand, when violations of law and privacy have occurred, there aren't any counter offers, and we don't need to work with you on what is ideal for you. Because the next step, after the legal team sees the evidence of non-compliance, is issuing a cease and desist with terms that are to delete the video and never speak about Jake or I. And that cease and desist will include financial penalties or fines for non-compliance. Jake's request was the first step in seeing if you'd be cooperative, but now I have it in writing that you don't wish to be and deliberately unlisted the video instead of deleting it when the demand was very clear.
Now, I feel like this conflict should have ended here. I honestly feel like Jake Weddle and his girl, you know, once again, I do feel a little sympathy for them for being thrust in the public eye and not being used to dealing with the small commentary community to an extent. But at the same time, they got to just get off. They got to just go away. At the end of the day, nothing that happened to them at this point was that bad. They didn't really need to acknowledge this. They didn't really need to weigh in. Jake's story was heard in a large way by a lot of people. And even to this day, a lot of people are criticizing Mr. Beast for his treatment of Jake. Whatever you feel about it, his story did get out there. But this couple is really focusing on these small commentary guys who are making fun of them, threatening legal action even, which is just not a good idea. The conflict here didn't really need to escalate further.
In short, they are speed running the path to becoming full lolcows. Like these are Boogie 2988 kind of reactions. Like they're going full DSP right now. In record time, from blow up to DSP level. Holy shit.
Until Lex decided to join Chud Logic's Discord and try to bait
him
into some kind of incriminating conversation. She tried to like socially engineer, manipulate him. And ultimately the alt account she joined with was banned, but that is what she tried to do. Lex even recently made her own video talking about some of this stuff, and she also said that she had to put cameras all over her house because of the threat to her life, but now her landlord is paranoid about it and is threatening to kick her out. She also made a very poor decision in the way that she said, I don't care, guys. I definitely don't care about this stuff. It's you guys that are mad. You guys are the crying Wojak, and I'm the girl boss Wojak, all right? Despite the fact I've responded to thousands of comments with one like, you guys are the mad ones.
That's the kind of life we lead now, is we just wake up and we're like, oh, H3 posted a video about us, posted another video about us. Oh, Chud Logic posted another video about us. Copen Seethe posted another.
If you can't handle that, the response is to log off. Just be done with the internet until people move on to the next person they want to talk to, and then you can try to come back later. This schizoing out and going full fucking lolcow, this is not good. This is not good. This is how you become Boogie 2988, and then you're topless on a Keemstar podcast with a knife screaming about ending yourself. Jesus Christ. Just stop. Just log off. Just get rid of your stuff. Go focus on doing your stand-up. Go drive around and pay to do those comedy clubs with all the money you should have taken from Mr. Beast. And try to buy your way into the comedy world. Because you ain't going to do it off your jokes alone, buddy.
Another video about us. Shout out to all of you small commentary YouTubers. I know you need the views.
Hello.
So there you go.
We do.
These are the people that are making videos about us. And I find it quite interesting because I don't care about their lives at all because I can't.
If you don't care, why are you making this video? Why are you responding to all the comments? I don't believe you.
care about my life.
Now, there's been a few more responses. There's been a long post from Jake about how the internet trolls
And
need to
still
leave him
more.
alone, and they're just behind a screen, sweaty losers, and he's like really out
Hey.
there fighting the good fight. And the people
not
making
sweaty.
fun of him want to silence him for Mr. Beast or something. They're all Mr. Beast fans. But if Jake Weddle and Lex are watching this, I'd like to impart a little bit of wisdom to you guys. You know, I don't have a lot of wisdom, but as someone who has spent a lot of time online, and you know, I've seen a lot of people rise and fall, I'm gonna make a recommendation. Shut up. Just shut up. Stop with whatever this is. Stop engaging in small commentary drama. Stop responding to Chud Logic and Queeman, and stop threatening legal action. Just stop all of that. If your focus
Just
really
log
is on
off.
getting your life back on track, if your focus really is on Jake's stand-up career and succeeding, frankly, you don't need to need to go after these commentary channels. You just don't need to. There's no reason to do
just-
that. And you
just
guys also need
ignore
to let go of the Mr. Beast thing. You need to let go.
Yep.
The controversy's basically died. The FBI is not going to come after Mr. Beast. I could be wrong. I don't think the FBI is going to come after Mr. Beast. I don't think Rosanna Pansino or Dogpack404 have any hope left for their claims. I think you guys just need to move on. Jake had a bad experience.
let
He
it
got to
go.
talk
Your
about it on a
15
large
minutes are
public
over.
platform, and obviously there's a lot of differing opinions on it, but not everyone's going to respect whatever you say when there's millions and millions of people looking in. You don't need to engage with all of this stuff. You don't need to threaten legal action. It's not a good thing to do. You got a good payout from the situation. You got a lot of online attention.
Yep, you got way
200,000
more than you
subscribers.
should
It's
have.
time to move on, okay? It's time to move on. Anyway, that's about it for watching. A little bit of a cautionary tale here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah. I gotta go find my, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I gotta go find my cough drops. My throat is killing me. All right, well, the internet's newest locale. Jake Weddle. Hope you guys enjoyed that.